Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we have something a little different here for you. We're going to do a discussion on, because it really covers not only the DCEU right now, but also where the Marvel universe is at, and that is recasting of some of our favorite characters. And the reason we're bringing this to you is about a week ago, Stephen Amell had posted where he had discussed with the new James Gunn universe coming out what his thoughts were on them recasting Green Arrow. Mantis, I don't know about you. I loved Stephen Amell's Green Arrow even more than Justin Hartley from Smallville. But I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I know. We did an episode or two of Green Arrow, and I've seen Justin Hartley in the Smallville series as Green Arrow, but I'm with you on that. Stephen Amell played him pretty good, especially the first season specifically. He's pretty ruthless and kind of hits that. I honestly, the way he plays him in the show in the first season, at least, it feels like he should be in like the Christopher Nolan like universe type thing. Like just the, he doesn't pull any punches. He kills people. Just like
you killed that man. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Nobody can know my secret.
Kills him, and it's one of those darker adaptations, I guess. So yeah, Stephen Amell definitely the better Green Arrow of the two that I've seen. So
hands down, obviously, I think anybody who's watched, especially if you've watched the entire run of Arrow, you're going to say season one was because of that, right? It was a we were coming off of the Dark Knight trilogy, and you rolled Arrow into that as well too, especially coming off of how light Smallville was. Even though, honestly, I think more people died in Smallville than Arrow when you think about it.
There's definitely more concussions.
Right, more memory loss.
Yeah.
But it was a great take on Green Arrow, and there was a while back, I don't know if you remember this, Mantis, but the CW had talked about changing the Arrowverse over to the CW verse.
And no, I don't remember that.
Yes, so Stephen Amell went on, and if I can find it, I'll pull it up here for everybody to see too. Stephen Amell had went on to his social media and said, while like I understand, he goes, the Arrowverse was something that started with Arrow. That's why obviously it's called Arrowverse. And I feel like that's kind of disrespectful now that Arrow ended, even though you still have crossovers going on, that you would try and rename it like you're booting him out just because he didn't want to continue playing Arrow in your universe the way you guys were taking it. So, when I think about them wanting to recast again, it just, I don't know, it bothers me because, there's that line of, roles are eventually going to get recast, but it used to be they would get recast like 10, 15 years later, they're redoing it. Now it's like, I mean, look how many Spider-Mans we've had, in the last 20 years, right?
Sure. Yeah. And some, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of jumping into the Marvel section here, but yeah, like I'm partial to Tobey Maguire just because that was the first Spider-Man that I watched. So I'm partial to him, but Andrew Garfield, not a real big fan of the way they did his. And then the newest, I forget his name. Tom Holland. I do like his as well. In fact, he may be the best one. I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like he has that goofiness that you would expect Peter Parker to an extent. He's not Ezra Miller Flash goofy, but it's borderline. I think we discussed this before. The only kind of real drawback that we had with him was the fact, and this is really not his choice or the way he played the character, it's kind of how it was written, being the kind of second fiddle, the apprentice to Tony Stark. So yeah.
So here's my thing, to kind of carry off what you're saying there. Like, I think Tom Holland fits the best of what we knew from the comics, right? He was a young, like still in high school, like early high school years, but he was also super smart. Whereas Tobey Maguire, I feel like he was already older. He was graduating high school as soon as he got his powers, and they focused on his college years. So you missed all of that time of him being a small, younger kid. And because, I mean, he was a kid, whereas Tobey Maguire's already an adult, right? So, and I didn't feel like they showcased his intelligence quite as much. And I feel like Andrew Garfield did a good job of showcasing the intelligence, but they still played him a little bit older, right? Just a little bit, because he was still in school in the beginning. And I loved Andrew Garfield's performance too. But Tom Holland best fits the overall what you imagined from the comics. Now, I will say in Spider-Man 2, when Tobey Maguire was losing his powers and he's like, I'm back, and then he falls and he's like, my back.
My back. Oh, my back.
That's me now, right? I resonate with that so much more because, I mean, that was in the early 2000s, right? So I'm like, being as old as I am now, I'm definitely, I wake up feeling like that some days. So I definitely resonate with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man now more than ever.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's jump into the this article, and I think it came from the direct. The article at least was written by Nathan Johnson, posted June 8th, and it kind of he's kind of going over the this is an interview with Stephen Amell on James Gunn's DCU. So and kind of piggybacking off of what you were talking about, the Arrowverse ending, and Stephen Amell this is where this interview kind of popped up, because the Flash series is wrapping up. That is bringing an end to the Arrowverse, essentially, right? Like there's no other shows in there.
Yeah. So now, spoiler alert, I haven't seen it either, but Stephen Amell does, and I may have to cut this. I'm just going to tell you right now. Stephen Amell does show up as Green Arrow again in the Flash's final season.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
I say he shows up as Green Arrow. He's still the Spectre from the watch, but I'm going to cut that. I'll cut that out there.
We'll just say
I don't want
he appears as Oliver Queen.
I might even just cut the whole fucking thing. But all right, so regardless, we're going to go ahead and start again real quick. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm going to put the article up here now. I didn't do this on purpose, but one of the little like side articles actually is Tom Holland in there, so that wasn't on purpose. But go ahead and put that up.
It's a plant.
Right? We led the conversation down this path.
Which kind of a side topic here because we're getting ready to get into this, but I heard the Beyond the Spider-Verse or whatever is
Across
pretty
the
good.
Spider-Verse.
Sorry, Across the Spider-Verse is pretty freaking good. I haven't seen it. We'll do a video on that.
Yes, I definitely want to get in that because I have not seen that either yet. So it'd be something. Hey, maybe we'll have finally another thing that neither of us have actually seen when we do another reaction.
Yeah.
On here. So, Arrowverse star shares questionable comments on James Gunn's new DC universe.
Questionable.
So, well, like, what makes it? So I'm gonna scroll through here. So, and I'm not going to read this out, guys. Like, we're in first grade again, and you're being asked to read in front of the class. But we'll just kind of go over some of the highlights. I've read the article, and as you read through here, please let us know in the comments. But I didn't see anything questionable because he speaks very highly of the people, like whoever's going to take over the mantle, right? So the one part I will notice when he said, he says he's getting mixed messages, right? And the reason I say this is so, spoiler alert right now, if you have not seen the last crossover or the main crossover they did, Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. But in that crossover, Ezra Miller shows up on the episode, right? And people are like, oh, they're going to start blending the universes together and everything else like that. And, one of the things that Stephen Amell says in here is that, what are you trying to do? Like, are you trying to separate yourself from the TV? Are you trying to blend them together? Because you're running two completely separate universes at the same time. Whereas, Marvel, we talked about before with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that ran for at least a while. It ran concurrent with their movies, and it worked.
Right.
But in your
that's what he's...
Sorry, go
That's
ahead.
what he's saying about he's getting mixed messages where he's saying he's confused, right? Like he's saying, I thought this was a separate. We Arrowverse did our thing. You guys do your thing. He, clearly in the article, but also the interview that he did for it, he was saying, he wishes them nothing but the best. He wants, like all of us, want to see awesome movies, right? Like that's what we just want. We just want to see good movies. But if you're going to do the blend, kind of like Marvel did, that's fine. If you're going to do separate universes, that's fine too. But you have to define it, right? Like you were talking about bringing Ezra Miller in, and I actually thought it was pretty funny. I Here's the thing: Ezra Miller is kind of a piece of shit. As far as what I've read about what he did and his like going all fucking crazy and stuff. Like, not a fan of that.
Okay, but
But
to be
I
fair,
will say,
them bringing him into the crossover was pre piece of shit days, right? We didn't know he was
Sure.
a piece of shit, and
sure,
you brought him in.
Sure. Yeah, yes, for sure. And that's what I say. I like it. Even as him as the Flash, I do kind of like him as the Flash too. I don't think he's a terrible actor. It's just it's so hard. I know for a lot of people that knows what he did in his personal life, kind of fucks up their view of him as far as how he plays the character on the screen. And I don't particularly judge actors and people like that, especially when it comes to art. It's whatever. If I enjoy the movie, then so be it. I don't really care if the person's a douchebag and whatever he does, goes all fucking crazy. But Stephen Amell's kind of right here in this fact that they needed to actually define what they want to do with it. Is it separate? Is it the same? And now with the Arrowverse kind of gone, I mean, at this point, it is separate, right? Like, I mean, if we overlook what happened in the crossover in Crisis on Infinite Earths, or is it? Well, that was kind of a thing that was going to happen with the Snyderverse and whatever.
And that may have been true, right? And now that's gone, right? So they're like, oh yeah, we brought him in on a crossover, but the Arrowverse is ending, the DCEU is ending, and it's going to be the DCU, which is still going to get confusing for a lot of people, but whatever. So may just do away with all of that, right? And the problem, I think, is that DC was doing all of this in such desperation to catch up to Marvel, right? Because they're so behind the gun. They dropped the ball on so many of their movies, and they've made a lot of mistakes. And again, I'm a bigger DC fan, than I am Marvel. DC's my number one. Superman. I can admit they made a lot of mistakes, right? So in making those, trying to correct those, they keep making other ones like this. Okay, you blended the shows together. Now, I personally when Superman Returns came out, I was upset they didn't cast Tom Welling as Superman. Right? I was mad. I was like, but I loved Brandon Routh in the role. And I'm thinking, okay, you're going to cast Oliver Queen, especially in a newer universe where if he plays the older version, like in the comics when he's in the Justice League, Stephen Amell is still perfect for that, right? But I get it. You want to start fresh, right? So you can't bring any of the old over, which would mean no actors, even though Suicide Squad they remade, they still brought Margot Robbie over for Harley Quinn because she's perfect, right? You can't do that this time. You have to cut ties completely if you're going to do it. Otherwise, nobody's going to be able to separate.
Right. And it looks like, we talked about this before. That's kind of what it looks like James Gunn. And it's really, I still don't believe it's fully his decision. I think the executives of Discovery pretty much told him, like, cut everybody. We're starting from scratch. New universe, new actors for the characters, and we'll just move forward, which is fine. But again, there needs to be a clear cutoff.
So is it that, or is it that they just didn't know, like even James Gunn is like, I don't know how to save this, right? You guys have dug too big a hole.
I mean, it could be, from what I read, and again, this is all rumors and whatnot, that the Discovery executives pretty much told him when he got over or was hiring him for the position that James is in, that we're cutting. Find all young new talent for the roles, and we're cutting all ties from CW and the current DC lineup. And it's maybe they already had, again, I think the Flash movie already in the works kind of screwed a little bit of that up. They were like, well, we've already got too much fucking money into this and we need to release it and make some of it back, type of thing.
So what was the other one? Was it the Supergirl movie, or what was the other one they already had they had talked about and then they scrapped it? No, Aquaman's still coming out, but that's going to be it. I'm trying to think. There was another one in line and they scrapped it and they're like, we're just not going to do it because we haven't started on it really.
Was it Batgirl?
Batwoman or Batgirl? I think Batwoman.
Maybe.
That sounds right. Let us know in the comments, please, because so much to keep up with, right? But I'm pretty sure you're right. I'm pretty sure it was Batwoman, and they scrapped it and they're like, look, we're not going to do this, because again, the universe is going to hell in a handbasket here. So they've already, Flash was too far into the works. You'd lose a couple $100 million. So like release it, let it make some money. If it makes its money back and you cut at even, there you go. And I think because, them bringing in all the old characters, like bringing in Michael Keaton and stuff, I think you'll at least get that. But, and then they'll just cut ties with it. Now, I will say, too, and I apologize, guys, up front, that I don't have this article pulled up and ready, but CW did announce that after the Arrowverse ends, they are basically done in the superhero genre. That's not going to be their line of content. Just because I know a lot of it, especially, and I don't know if it's them making that conscious decision or if because of now HBO Max, has a lot of the rights if they're just taking over.
Hopefully they do. I really hopefully they do.
I don't know what's going to happen with Superman and Lois, right? I hope they take that over.
I was going to say the only really thing that is worth a shit now is Superman and Lois. But the thing is, too, we talked about this before. They have the budget of Max anyway. If it's literally the name on the product and everything else that HBO Max or Max is going to make is going to be the same quality as Superman and Lois, I'm fucking here for it. Let's fucking go.
Well, I mean, if you get away from the CW and their agenda, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good move. Like the article I read, at least, and again, I apologize, I don't have it up here, but the article I read is CW had stated they want to move away from that. Great. Good. You're doing a bad job at it at this point. Give it up. Stop ruining my favorite characters.
Go back and... Yeah, go back and make some fucking OC V2. Go back and make, I don't know, Melrose Place or whatever the fuck they do. Like,
okay, first off, and you guys on the channel here, if you're watching, can judge me, but I've watched the OC and Melrose Place and 90210. Thank you. Okay, don't judge me.
I don't know if 90210 was CW or
it wasn't. It wasn't that, but I'm just saying. But
I know the OC was
okay. 90210 spawned a Melrose Place, so there was actors in 90210 that spawned into Melrose Place. Okay, we're not going to talk about how I know that. Okay, I'm not going to get into it. All right, leave me alone. But I may or may not have all 4 seasons of the OC sitting on my shelf, which is not in this room here. We don't judge here. Remember the last video we did? We talked about we don't judge. All right.
No judgment. No judgment.
Okay. I was young. This is early 2000s. All right.
It's fine.
So, as he quietly judges.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, again, this kind of bring it back to the article because I'll move away. I'm just gonna skip right over that. Stephen Amell was talking about the characters and who's gonna play them, right? Because as they move from the CW into either Max or the DCU, in this article specifically talking about the DCU. And I haven't heard anyone saying anything about a Green Arrow. Now it's gonna happen. It will. I mean, it will. So, but he's specifically saying, it's funny because he mentions that he's like, I don't think anyone's asking Tom Welling how he feels who's going to play the new Superman, which is a funny quote because it's like man, why can't Tom Welling play Superman? Like, you know,
Right. But it's funny because in there, what I've got up there, he says he's a custodian for the character, right? Because you're the
yeah,
placeholder until they replace somebody. And then whoever
exactly,
they
yeah,
replace him with, you're going to compare it, right? You're
yeah.
going to be compared not only to all of them, right? But you're going to be compared to the last one and also your favorite one. Like I said, Stephen Amell's my favorite. So when you look
True, and
at it,
it's different. It's different for Stephen Amell too because there is no other Oliver Queen that's played a Green Arrow. Tom Welling, I mean, they've had, like you said, they had Brandon Routh. They
well,
had,
Justin Hartley played Green Arrow.
well, okay, yeah, but what I mean is they not after him, and no one's played it on the big screen.
Yes,
No
nobody's
one.
played up. So now, real quick, word around the campfire is similar to how Marvel had done with Iron Man, that they were talking about possibly.
Sorry. Restart.
Yep, I'm gonna just give it a second and then I'm gonna restart. So now, word around the campfires, and I don't know how much of this is true. I just saw like a little snippet of it that they had talked about with launching. I know they're talking about Superman Legacy, but bringing in like a Green Arrow, almost like an Iron Man style, right? So yeah, you've got Superman as your big placeholder guy, but then you've got Green Arrow coming in, kind of like Iron Man, smart billionaire, but he kind of got like a Batman / Iron Manish vibe, more towards Batman. Which would be cool. And even he says right here, I mean, you can see it. It says it'd be new, cool, and exciting. I don't get what's controversial about this. Now I'm going to scroll on down a little bit here. He said, "Here, whoever takes up the mantle will do an amazing job." What's controversial about that? And he even says on here, it's not like these people. I don't want to jump ahead here. Hold up. The first chapter is entitled "Gods and Monsters." Oh yeah, right here. It says, you've got to remember these people aren't picked at random, right? And on that, I will say this: I'm not the person to pick those people, right? Because I was so pissed off when I heard that Heath Ledger was going to be Joker.
I
Because
know.
I remember him from like 10 Things I Hate About You, and I never watched Brokeback
Yeah.
Mountain, but I know he was in it. I was so pissed off, and I was completely wrong. R.I.P. Heath Ledger, but you're still the greatest Joker. I hated when they said, we actually talked about this, Mantis, when they said Ben Affleck was going to be the newest Batman. I was like, this is I like Ben Affleck.
I remember the conversation.
Yeah,
I remember it.
Yes, and it was
the
heated.
Same thing.
We were drinking. It was a heated discussion of like, dude, I like him in certain roles. Like, he's not going to be a good Batman. I think he's the best Batman to date.
Yeah, he played a really good Batman. Heath Ledger did a great job too. Again, we don't know who they pick. And then again, the actor, I'm not an actor. I've never acted anything. I wasn't even in high school drama. So like, I don't
but it wasn't
know.
on theater.
Yeah, I don't know the skills that it takes. However, I know, again, if James Gunn is pretty good at identifying talent, clearly via his Guardians of the Galaxy work for Marvel,
Peacemaker for DC,
Peacemaker for yes, I mean, and Suicide Squad. The characters the character actors that did pick those characters or that he picked for them, did a pretty good job. And none of them were superhero actors before that.
Well, Margot Robbie.
Okay, besides her, but she played the same character.
Yeah.
So that's not I'm not going to count that.
She was the only good thing of the Suicide Squad that translated over. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I don't know if there's an image of like who Harley Quinn would look like in real life, like it's
Margot Robbie. Yeah,
it's Margot Robbie. Yeah, it just is. And it works. But I agree with him. Like, you never know. You never know who's going to play a good actor in a movie or a good superhero in a comic or in meshing those two. You just don't know.
Well, and not to be all cliched and BS that like people's parents tell them, but the judging the book by its cover, right? Like I judged Heath Ledger by what I've seen some things in, and he shows you a range that you couldn't imagine he would have gone to that depths of what he did with that character. Ben Affleck, he pulled it off very, very, very well. So it just you can't always go with your first thoughts on it. Now, there are certain ones, like when they said Patrick Stewart, but when they announced the X-Men movie, I was like, Patrick Stewart's got to play Xavier, right? There are those people that naturally gravitate toward in your mind of who are perfect, but none of us would have picked Hugh Jackman. If you know the comics, none of us would have picked Hugh Jackman for Wolverine, and now we can't imagine a world without him.
Right. Yeah.
So he's coming back in Deadpool 3. We can't do without we can't right now deal with, as a society, Wolverine being played by anybody other than Hugh Jackman.
Right. Yeah. There are those actors that you don't think would do a great job, and then all of a sudden they wow you, and then now you can't see anyone else in that role. I mean, and in Green Arrow is kind of one of those, but mainly just because his only other competition really was Justin Hartley, who didn't do a terrible job at it. It's just the writing and the job that Stephen Amell did was just better. Like, it's not, it was a bad versus good thing. It's like he just did a better job.
Well, and no offense to him, but like they played Justin Hartley's Green Arrow, like in the last couple of seasons, where he was a boozer, he was dealing with a lot of depression and guilt and things like that. Plus, he's a second to Superman, essentially, right? Like, what is he doing with a bow and arrow? So, whereas Stephen Amell, especially in the first couple seasons, he's on his own, just being a badass. Dude, Superman would just run in there, take care of all of your, like, there's no comparison there. So it's hard, the show wasn't focused. It wasn't like Justin Hartley was the main lead as Green Arrow. He was secondary to Superman.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of like he's kind of like a great value Batman, quite honestly. Like, he's still rich, and he's like, he doesn't have any actual superpowers, but like, he's kind of got some cool gadgets, and he can shoot a bow, and like,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when even in the Smallville, I know we talked about we're not going to necessarily watch all 200 plus episodes of Smallville, but in the Justice League episode, you have Cyborg, Flash, Aquaman, Green Arrow, and him. Like, you're the only one that doesn't have powers. Like, so, that's unfair to compare the two, right? It's kind of like in the crossovers in the Arrowverse when Supergirl comes in or even Superman comes in. What are you going to do to them? Now, the only difference was all of them seemed like noobs, where Oliver was kind of the leader. He was like Batman in the Justice League, where he's kind of leading all of these badasses with powers, right? But they're respecting his battle knowledge and skills and everything else of assessing situations. And there was that respect. And
well, it makes sense to the viewer in the Arrowverse because we've seen what Oliver Queen went through, right? Like, all of this crazy shit that he went through in Arrow. You don't get that with Justin Hartley in the Smallville series. So you can kind of see where they're coming from, and it makes more sense to the viewer of why these metahumans or these other superheroes with powers would kind of listen to him, right? Whereas with Justin Hartley, you're just like, hey, some fucking rich kid putting on leather on the weekends. Like, it doesn't make much sense because you didn't get the context of how Oliver Queen became Green Arrow. So
in Smallville, they just go, basically his parents died in the yacht crash and he was lost, right? They didn't show him being tortured like, they did with Oliver Queen. And fuck, I'm sorry. There's a shit ton of spoilers in this episode. If you haven't watched a lot of the movies in Arrowverse, do not watch this episode, which it's already too fucking late now. I might cut in a disclaimer, but like, there's so many spoilers in there. But, and I think also having a separate show of The Flash, so you have somebody with superpowers, right? And they talk about how, in Central City, it's so light and you got these metahumans that you give cute nicknames. And here he's got his sister dying or somebody dying, they're dealing with real life shit. Right. So, he had that contrast to even play off of in comparison to having the super people, since they didn't keep it in separate shows versus Justin Hartley. So it's not really fair to compare the two, but Stephen Amell is definitely going to be the benchmark to how this new person measures up, even if it is movie. and they're going to be actually held to a higher standard because you have a higher fucking budget, right? I want to see Stephen Amell did most of his own stunts, right? I want to see you put forth some effort. You got to do the stunts, the acting. You got to sell it. How are you going to portray this? So they got a high bar, to surpass.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Again, it's going to be very difficult to portray another character that doesn't actually have superpowers. It's difficult for characters. They have to have a niche, right? If they're not trauma based, that everyone doesn't know. Everyone knows Batman and the shit he went through, right?
You better. If you don't know Batman by now, get off this channel.
You can kind of compare it to kind of Tony Stark. No one really knew Iron Man. He doesn't have superpowers.
Both parents are dead.
But both parents are, you kind of, it's kind of contrast a little bit there, or comparable. It's a little bit comparable, but they found a way to make it work with Tony Stark. He found his niche. He's kind of an asshole, smart aleck. It works. It's funny. And part of that's the actor, clearly. And I think with regards to, with regards to Green Arrow, it's going to have to be something like that. It's going to have to be something like Heath Ledger. It's going to have to be something innate with the actor that brings the little something extra to make the character stand out. Because in a universe, and clearly, the article talks about this too. The first chapter of the DCU is called Gods and Monsters. If you're going to bring the Arrow in the first chapter of this, he's going to have to stand out quite a bit.
Okay, so here's the question. Do you bring him into a chapter called Gods and Monsters where, again, he's got a bow? He doesn't even have an Iron Man suit. Like, at least the Iron Man suit.
That's what I'm saying.
Tony Stark, he learned from his mistakes, even battling Thor and all this, and he always adapted his suits. You're in a freaking leather suit with a bow and arrow and maybe some trick arrows. What are you going to do in this realm, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can compare it to Hawkeye, right?
You better call it, Coulson. I'm starting to root for this guy.
Like, he's like,
he's a rich Hawkeye, or Hawkeye's a broke Green Arrow.
Yeah, he's a rich Hawkeye or a broke Green Arrow. That's what he is. Like, I can't see, and the article mentions this. I just don't see how they bring him into the first chapter, because again, I think DCU and James Gunn, and he's mentioned it, and I've said it too. This is all going. The whole success of this is going to be based off of Superman. All the other shit in the DCU doesn't matter how well it does or how bad it does. Superman will make or break it. It just will. And I don't care what anyone says. If this Flash movie, I know we're gonna go see it, and then we're gonna do a reaction review of it. I don't care how bad or how good it is. It really doesn't matter if Superman's terrible. It just doesn't.
Well, and funny you mentioned. So if this is the Superman, I don't know if you can see my cursor moving there. Mm-hmm. This is the Superman we're gonna get. I'm already gonna tell you your universe is gonna fail. Right?
It looks like Jim from The Office.
Well, like a young Jim from even in The Office, he's still looking. This guy looks like he's 15 years old, right? Like, look next to him.
Yeah,
does that look like this guy? I don't.
Well,
think so.
And again, he's supposed to be young, from what I read, right? Like,
but this still looks like he's in high school, right? He didn't have the suit. Like, that's not like when he's rocking the suit.
Yeah, and again, I don't know too much about where the first. What's it called?
Superman Legacy is, I think.
Legacy.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about where that is placed in the lore or the timeline of the character of Superman and Clark Kent. I don't particularly know. So who knows? Maybe all this is kind of nonsense. The article does say, it's like, in short, Oliver Queen is a popular DC hero, been around for an extremely long time. It's very true through three different series. And They say it's highly
Oliver?
likely he's going to show up in the DCU. So I mean, I can't see them not, especially if he's going to get to the Justice League, which he's going to. Right, this is the whole pinnacle, like Marvel with with oh god,
Use your words.
Infinity Wars and the
Endgame.
Avengers. Like, yes, Endgame. You know, if the Avengers Endgame is Marvel's pinnacle, the Justice League, and pick your poison here. This is where DC shines above Marvel. You have these extraterrestrial huge enemies that Marvel just they can't compete with. Dark Side.
But therein lies your problem. Because what the hell is Green Arrow going to do against Darkseid, Brainiac, or Doomsday?
He's not going to be a main. Yeah, he's not going to. He's going to do what Hawkeye did.
Hawkeye, I will say this though, if you go back to watch like Civil War, Hawkeye's kind of like the heart of the group, right? He's like Steve. I mean, he was what like he got Wanda on board and had her turn up against Vision.
Yeah,
like he's kind of like the heart of the group. You know, maybe
he's gonna have to play that.
You got two billionaires, right? Because honestly, if you ever read the comics, if you haven't, go read them. But you know, Batman or Bruce Wayne and Oliver Queen, they're what helped fund the Justice League and then have them Watchtower out in space, right? Because they're both billionaires, so they help fund that. So he's that, and then that's where he's kind of like in the comics, he's more the light to Bruce Wayne or Batman being the dark, right? They help balance each other out.
Right.
Again,
he's not going to play
Arrow. I wouldn't go with that, but
yeah, he's more on the dark side there. Yeah, but it's a case where when you're playing with gods, Superman is a god on Earth essentially. You have things like Doomsday and Darkseid, Brainiac. I'm just going to put all the tropes out of the Superman villains because they're the most powerful. It's like those, right? And you're right, like what is a Green Arrow going to do against it? What is Batman going to do?
You still try to fight. Can't you see that it's hopeless?
And they're going to be those supporting roles. They're not going to be the main focus. That's my point, that in this universe, when it comes to the pinnacle of DC, as Marvel did, it all's going to fall on Superman and or Wonder Woman. Okay. Because she's kind of in that demigod section too.
And a little bit of Batman too, depending on who you make Batman, right? If you do Batman terribly, everybody has a high expectation of Batman and Superman. Wonder Woman, other than the TV show, Gal Gadot's portrayal is really the only big, on-screen, like I said, I know there was an old like 70s Wonder Woman show or something. But, so it really comes down to Superman and Batman. Superman obviously is a huge number one. So let me ask you this, though. If obviously it's going to be a make or break with those, and Green Arrow is going to be a supporting role, would it be bad to cast Stephen Amell? Or do you just break ties with everything?
I mean, quite honestly, I don't think it matters if he's a supporting role.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so bring something somewhat familiar. At least people, because the only idea you have of Green Arrow, because there's a lot of people who don't remember or don't really care about Justin Hartley's portrayal. Not that he didn't do a good job, but again, you're talking about two completely different eras.
Again, it's gonna matter if they're going to just cut ties with everything of the past. Completely.
I feel like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. But I mean, effectively with the character, I don't think it's going to play. Arrow's not going to. Oliver Queen's not going to play a major role in the overall aspect of
something called Gods and Monsters, right?
Yeah, Gods and Monsters. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, it could be a case where it ends up being like Hawkeye, where he was vastly important. So was Black Widow to Endgame. I mean, completely important. A very small but important role. They didn't really go into much of it, but she had to kill herself basically for it, right? I mean,
It was the end game.
Yeah. I mean, there are those things that you have to have. But again, as far as the overall aspect of the character being in a major role in the DCU, I just don't see it, and I don't see the fact that they need to bring Stephen Amell in as a draw to the character if it's not going to be that big.
I get that. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, I will tell you guys, we are not sponsored by Chipotle, so this ad's been up here for a while. That has nothing to do with us and our sponsorship. I do want to talk about this part right here, though. So good old John Diggle is, again, spoilers. You should have already turned away from this video if you have not seen it all. But last season of Arrow, it came out that his last name was actually Stewart. And in the very last episode, or the crossover episode, he finds the ring, comes to Earth for, obviously, Jon Stewart was one of the Green Lanterns. There was supposed to be a spin-off show on HBO of Green Lantern, and he was going to play it.
Interesting.
It is no longer happening. Again, they're cutting all ties.
Yeah, so was that the Justice U? Is that what that was?
That was, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I mean, David Ramsey, he's still amazing. I loved him as John Diggle. I think he'd be a great Jon Stewart, but David Ramsey, he was great throughout the show.
Yeah, I mean, he did pretty well. I mean, I don't know about making him Jon Stewart, but he played Diggle really well.
He played Diggle. Yeah, I'm not saying he would be a great Jon Stewart, but like at least it's somebody you know. And again, you know, when we did, I'm not going to lie and say I know the order in which I'm going to release all of these, but when we watched the Black Panther, you know, on the channel here, we had discussed, you know, when you talk about having prominent, you know, actually actors who are portraying their counterparts in the comic books that were, you know, black, you know, Jon Stewart as a Green Arrow, he is a black Green Arrow in the comics. So it would have been great because he's somebody you know, he does a great job, and he has a good persona for Jon Stewart. So I would have loved to have seen the show.
I know, I'm trying to think of another actor that I could see playing as Jon Stewart.
It's gonna be Samuel L. Jackson. It's gonna be
that just doesn't fit. Yeah, even Idris Elba doesn't really fit, in my opinion.
Well, no, you'd also want it younger. No offense to him, you know, all those guys, but you know, even Idris Elba, he's pushing close to 50. You want to, like they're talking about, get young people in that are going to be able to carry this franchise for at least a decade plus. I mean, it's not like you can just crank these movies out every 3 months, right? You know, it's a couple of years in between.
Well, and John, I mean,
you know damn well Michael B. Jordan's going to be Jon Stewart. Like that's just what
he's got to be, doesn't he? Right? He's got to be.
You know. No offense to Michael B. Jordan, but damn, like, can we not, like, you know, back in the day, we had Samuel L. Jackson, we had Morgan Freeman, we had Sidney Poitier, you know, we had all of these strong black actors. Like, can we not get somebody other than Michael B. Jordan or Idris Elba? Like, come on.
I know. Like, that's what I said. Like, I just can't see. I mean, I could probably see Michael B. Jordan, but
I don't think he'd do a bad job at it. Like, I think he could probably pull it off.
I don't think he would do a bad job at it either. I think seeing the actor who plays John play him as Diggle, like you could totally see that actor, like the way he plays John Diggle isn't that far off from how he could probably play Jon Stewart.
You know that's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like he would blend right into that actor role.
Yeah, the character that he's portraying probably wouldn't. You wouldn't have to do too much difference there, and you could be believable. So I could see it. I'm not saying it wouldn't work or I wouldn't like it. I just, you know, there has to be. Oh, that's it. I'm sure there are other possible ones to do. So, yeah, we went way over on this one, but there's definitely some intrigue there for sure.
And hey, let us know down in the comments who would you think would make a great Jon Stewart? Because you know I'm all up for if we want to do a Green Lantern movie. No offense to Ryan Reynolds, he even admits it was garbage, right? Like he will tell you flat out it was garbage.
It was pretty bad,
and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a difficult movie to make. It's somebody who can just
It is.
will things into that. But if we went with the Jon Stewart, right? Let's if we're really about this, right, and not going woke, I'm just saying if we're really about, let's get some prominent black actors showcased, right? We talked about, okay, Blade. Where's our remake of Blade? Where's the remake of Spawn? They didn't even bother to recast Chadwick Boseman's character, R.I.P.
Yep.
They played it off, whereas a lot of people thought they should have recast to carry on the legacy, right? Where are all of these characters? So, okay, bring a Green Lantern and do Jon Stewart. Let us know down in the comments, who do you think would play a good Jon Stewart and why?
Yeah, because I mean, I don't particularly know. I mean,
I'm still up for
quite
David
honestly.
Ramsey, man. Now I get they're going to cut ties, just like with Stephen Amell. I get they're going to cut ties, but I can't right now think of anybody other than maybe Michael B. Jordan who's going to play a Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Idris Elba's out of the picture for me. He just doesn't fit the character type. And then Michael B. Jordan's good, and then I mean Ramsey, pretty good. I'm trying to think of any other newer upcoming ones. I mean, I know some people I've heard had mentioned. I can't think of his name. The guy that played Finn in Star Wars. They had mentioned him a few times. Can't think of his name, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can't think of his name either, but that wouldn't be bad in thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how the British accent would go, but he could. I mean, it could be okay, I guess.
I mean, accents, it's kind of one of those things that, like, it's hit or miss, right? If the acting's good enough, it doesn't matter.
I could tell.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Look at Thor with Chris Hemsworth. He has an Australian accent, and none of the other Asgardians have an Australian accent. But
I know,
right?
I know,
it doesn't fit. So
you didn't even think about it, right?
Yeah, you did.
Like
you never questioned it, right?
In fact, how many people watching this video right now just realized that he had an Australian accent in the movie, but you didn't even think about it till right now?
Exactly. So, and also he plays, because in Star Wars he doesn't have the accent, right? He plays English speaking, just normal. He doesn't have the accent, so he could either do that, or even if you rock the accent, there's no set. That is such a minute thing from the comics that I wouldn't complain about, right? I'm not going to say, well, in the comics they didn't have an accent. Well, who gives a shit at this point, right? Other actors need to step up and start being better. Okay, if we have to keep going to all these actors that have
damn
from other countries
in the comic.
Well, if you have to keep going to all these other actors from different countries that have different accents, okay, then step up and be better, right? Because
it's because they're better actors than what American Hollywood actors can do.
Hold up, Dave Chappelle.
Interesting.
Dave Chappelle as Jon Stewart.
I don't know if you know this, Al Jordan. I smoke rocks.
Tell you something about me, Joe Rogan, that you might not know. I smoke rocks.
He's scratching his neck. FYI, okay, a little placement there. If nobody's watched the Chappelle show, go watch it. Hilarious. And don't cancel him after you watch it, because it's bad. In comparison to today's
it's
standards.
bad, but it's so
good. But it's in comparison to today's standards, cancel culture being what it is. You'd want to don't watch it because we told you, and then go get him canceled because be like, well, on UBC, Mantis and the Steps on a Krypton said, we need to watch this, and we canceled him. Don't blame us for it. Okay, I'm just telling you, it's good. Go watch it. So, all right, we have gone way over where I thought this was going to go, but I feel like it was a great discussion. I am interested to see your guys' comments down below, because we did discuss a lot. Please let us know, because the very next discussion video we do on a similar subject here coming up, I want to be able to go over some of the comments that are left in there and what your guys' thoughts were on it. And if you have made it all of this time with us, can't say how long it's going to be because there are some parts I need to cut out. Please consider liking, subscribing. Definitely helps out the channel here. And then let us know if there's other discussion topics you might want us to discuss or weigh in on.
Yeah. Again, comment, like, subscribe, all the bullshit. We'll try and respond to the comments in the video as much as we can. Also, be on the lookout in the next couple episodes. We will be doing a Flash reaction / discussion. We may, I don't know, I haven't really talked to Cal here about it, but we may do a spoiler-free version, and then we may do a spoiler version. So we'll just be on the lookout for that.
To be fair, I'm going to cut in at the beginning of this a huge spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen X, Y, and Z, you might not want to watch this video just because I don't like having things ruined, but it just came up in natural discussion here. So I'll probably do a cut in, but yes, we will let you know ahead of time if this is something, if you've not seen the movie, don't watch it yet, come back. But just don't watch it yet. Or if, you have, hey, great, let us know, kind of give us your thoughts on it as well. And with that, I think we will wrap it, guys. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Take it easy.
Later.